So if this big metal object isn't a plane, what is it?
They damaged or destroyed more than 300 airplanes and 18 warships.
Ever wonder what secrets the jungle holds? Well, it turns out these lush green forests are hiding more than just exotic wildlife. They're packed with World War II relics.
This is weird. It is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house in the middle of the freaking jungle.
Deep in the dense foliage, soldiers, forgotten gear, abandoned aircraft, and mysterious bunkers are waiting to be discovered. What other hidden pieces of history might be lurking in the wild? 1. Plane wreckage discovered in PNG rainforest. In 2022, a 15-year-old named Willie Flynn set out on an extraordinary adventure in the jungles of Papua New Guinea. Villagers had been passing down stories for years about an Australian U23 plane that had crashed somewhere in the dense rainforest, but no one had ever gone far enough to find it until Willie showed up. With a tip from a local pig hunter, Willie made his way through thick jungle and crossed 3 rivers to uncover the long-lost plane. The aircraft, along with the remains of the 4 crew members who were on board, had been hidden in the wild, with nature slowly reclaiming it. It had been hidden since it was shot down near Rabaul back in 1942, an area that saw heavy fighting and bombing. Many planes ended up lost in the jungle or at the bottom of the sea. Like and subscribe right now, and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week. While a lot of crash sites are still out there, tucked away and unknown, one local diver has managed to find over 50 of them. He's even come across some with remains still on board. 2. Hidden Nazi hideout. Discovered in Argentine jungle. Deep in the Argentine jungle, archaeologists have unearthed a hidden Nazi hideout, buried in lush greenery and just a stone's throw from the Paraguayan border. This site reveals a surprisingly modern house-like structure.
This is weird. It is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house in the middle of the freaking jungle.
Complete with 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a restroom. The original blue and yellow tiles still remain, making it clear this was no ordinary hideout. Researchers from the University of Buenos Aires found items dating back to 1940s Germany, hinting that this place was a secret refuge for high-ranking Nazis. It's an incredibly remote and well-protected spot, ideal for staying under the radar. While there's buzz about whether top figures like Hitler's private secretary, Martin Bormann, might have lived here, there's no concrete evidence yet. What's fascinating is that while this hideout was in use, many notorious Nazis like Adolf Eichmann and Josef Mengele were living relatively openly in Argentina after the war. 3. Relics and remains found on Pelu Island. On the island of Pelu, the past feels like it's just around the corner. This tiny Pacific spot, once a hotbed of World War II action, still holds on to its secrets.
It was at 8:30 in the morning on September the 15th, 1944, when wave after wave of American troops began to pour onto the beach.
Back in 1944, American Marines faced some of the toughest fighting of the war here, battling against Japanese troops who were dug in deep with a maze of caves and bunkers. The island quickly became known for its brutal combat and staggering casualties. Today, the island still bears the scars of that conflict. You can still find old, rusted tanks and wreckage from Japanese planes scattered in the thick jungle. The network of tunnels where soldiers hid out remain, along with some eerie relics like battered mess tin and bits of gas masks. Even the remains of soldiers continue to be discovered. Japanese authorities, dedicated to honoring their fallen, regularly repatriate these remains to their family. 4. The Nazi Gold Train. The story of the Nazi Gold Train has been one of the biggest treasure legends since World War II. As the Nazis retreated from the Soviets in 1945, it's said they stashed away a train loaded with gold, jewels, and priceless artifacts somewhere in Poland. For years, people thought it was just a myth, until 2015, when 2 treasure hunters claimed they had actually found it. Using ground-penetrating radar, they spotted what looked like a train buried near the town of Wreckage. The discovery stirred up a frenzy, with everyone wondering what could be inside. Was it really packed with Nazi gold, or just another dead end? 5. German U-boat found off Turkish coast. A piece of Wubby history has just surfaced off the Turkish coast, the German U23 Submarine. This U-boat had been lying quietly on the seabed of the Black Sea for over 80 years, more than 40 meters deep, right where the Black Sea meets the Bosphorus Strait. During the war, Germany had to get creative because Turkey was neutral and wouldn't let their subs through the Bosphorus. So, they took apart these U-boats, transported them 2,000 kilometers overland to Romania, reassembled them, and then launched them into the Black Sea. The U-23 was part of this secretive fleet and played a big role in attacking Allied ships, sinking nearly 100 vessels. Recently, divers found the U-23, and it's been filmed and partially salvaged. 6. WB Airman found frozen in ice. In 2005, 2 ice climbers near Mendel Glacier in California made a chilling discovery, literally.
As they get closer to the mound, they see something that they can't unsee.
They found a frozen body buried in ice and snow with blonde hair still visible. The man was lying face down, missing a leg, and his skull was crushed. Initially, the climbers thought they'd found a hiker, but a closer look revealed a parachute and the words U.S. Army Air Corps.
U.S. Army Air Corps is an old name. It's a forerunner of the U.S. Air Force.
Stenciled on the fabric confirmed that this man was a World War II airman. It turned out the body was Leo Mustonen, a 22-year-old cadet from Minnesota who had crashed during a training flight in 1942. Despite the original burial records for his flight crew, Mustonen's body had remained frozen in the glacier for over 6 decades. DNA testing confirmed his identity, solving a mystery that had lingered since World War II. 7. Uncovering a Nazi submarine off the coast of Brazil. Wilfredo Sherman, a Brazilian sailor and entrepreneur, was obsessed with tracking down the German U-23, a W-2 submarine that sank off Brazil's coast. The U-513, nicknamed the Grey Wolf, had been lost under the waves since 1943, and Sherman was determined to track it down. After 17 trips and a lot of hard work, Sherman and his team finally got a lead, a faint signal coming from 250 feet below the surface.
Until a strange signal emerged from some 250 feet below.
Since they couldn't dive that deep, they sent down a remote-controlled camera to explore the sea floor. The wait was nerve-wracking as they scanned a sandy expanse, but then a ghostly shape appeared on the screen. It was the U-513, almost 70 years after it vanished. The U-53 was a Type 9 U-boat that had been part of Germany's efforts to disrupt Allied shipping in the South Atlantic. It had sunk several ships before its own tragic end. 8. Wreckage of WB plane discovered in Sahara. A World War II plane wreck has been found buried in the Sahara Desert. This isn't just some random crash site. This is the real deal. The plane, a British Royal Air Force aircraft, went down on June 28, 1942, and it's been resting in the sand ever since. During an aerial survey, the wreckage was spotted, and it's amazing what's been uncovered. Alongside the plane's fuselage and engine, which are surprisingly well preserved, they found a bunch of WE ammunition and gun. There were even some personal items like scraps of uniforms and gear scattered around, adding a personal touch to the find. It's incredible to think about how this piece of wartime history has been hidden away in the desert for so long. The Sahara's unforgiving climate might have kept the wreckage mostly intact, but it's also a reminder of the many stories still buried beneath its vast sand. 9. A hidden village under the Hague beaches. Imagine stumbling upon an entire underground Nazi village right beneath the beaches of The Hague. That's exactly what happened when archaeologists uncovered a network of WE-era tunnels hidden under the sand. These tunnels were more than just dark passageway. They were fully equipped with everything a small military base would need. As they dug through the sand, they discovered fully functional facilities like kitchens, dorms, and even some makeshift spa areas. It felt like stepping into a hidden wartime village where you could still see the traces of daily life from decades ago. The walls of the dorms still bore the marks of German army symbol, with some swastikas having been scraped off by Dutch teenagers eager to erase any reminders of the past. The tunnels were designed to house about 60 to 65 soldiers during the occupation. Maps and directions painted on the walls, showed routes to the coast and locations of anti-tank guns. The whole site was pretty well preserved. 10. The U23 Japanese mini submarine found on Kisa Island. During the summer of 2018, archaeologists exploring the snow-covered and fog-drenched island of Kisa discovered something incredible, a massive metal object partially buried on a hill. This mysterious find was a 78-foot-long, rusted, and aerodynamically shaped piece of steel, resembling a streamlined aircraft fuselage. But this wasn't a plane.
The remains of an abandoned or a crashed plane, you'd expect to see other parts nearby, like wings, seats, wheels, but there's nothing like that there. So if this big metal object isn't a plane, what is it?
It turned out to be a Japanese mini submarine from Wubu. The object, riddled with holes and missing chunks, was matched to the Type A mini submarines used by Japan during the war. Alongside this submarine wreck, the team found other artifacts: large guns, gas masks, and a pile of split-toe rubber boots used by the Japanese Navy. Kisa Island was once a strategic base for Japan, and it's clear they were preparing for significant operations in the North Pacific. Interestingly, the mini submarine's location, on a hill rather than underwater, raises questions. The wreckage showed signs of an internal explosion, suggesting it was deliberately destroyed. 11. W2 Gold found in German tunnel. Dr. Timothy Naftali, a leading expert on Nazi-looted treasures, took a rare trip to Merker's mine, located 2 hours outside Frankfurt. This salt and potassium mine was a secret stash for the Nazis' plundered gold at the end of World War II. To reach the treasure, Dr. Naftali descended 2,000 feet into the mine's depth. The maze-like tunnels, stretching over 30 kilometers, were so vast they could cover an entire city like Leipzig. After a long ride, he finally reached room number 8, a massive chamber, 75 feet wide and 150 feet long, where the Nazis had hoarded their riches. The room was discovered almost by accident when French women tipped off the Americans about seeing sacks of money. After a fierce battle and some explosives, U.S. soldiers breached the room to find 8,098 gold bars.
Told American soldiers that they had seen sacks of money
worth around $250 million in 1945. But here's the kicker. The Nazis had reportedly stolen $598 million in gold. So where's the rest? 12. The Musashi battleship wreck. The Musashi was one of the largest and most powerful battleships ever built, a behemoth of steel and firepower that was a key part of the Japanese fleet. Launched in 1942, it was a floating fortress, bristling with heavy guns and armor. But despite its might, it had a tragic end. During the Battle of Leyte Gulf in 1944, it was struck by a barrage of bombs and torpedoes, eventually sinking into the depths of the Philippines' Sibuyan Sea.
2,400 crew members lost their lives in one of the largest naval battles in world history.
Fast forward to 2015, when a team of researchers, led by the renowned American explorer and shipwreck hunter Paul Allen, set out on a quest to find the Musashi. Using advanced sonar technology and deep-sea submersibles, they scoured the ocean floor in search of this elusive giant. Their efforts paid off when they finally located the wreck in March 2015, lying more than 1,000 feet below the surface. 13. The Battle of Brooklyn. The Battle of Brooklyn, fought on August 27, 1776, was a key event in the American Revolution. Today, we're still uncovering bits and pieces from that historic fight. Recent digs in New York City, a place rich in Revolutionary War history, have turned up some cool artifacts. We've found buttons from different British regiments, including the 45th Regiment of Foot, who fought in the battle. These buttons are more than just metal. They connect us directly to the soldiers from that day. Alongside these, archaeologists have found everyday items like forks and smoking pipes, giving us a glimpse into the lives of those who were there. Also unearthed were old bottles that probably held liquor. Back then, people recycled their bottles a lot, which makes these finds even more interesting. Plus, where and how these items were discarded gives us clues about how the city changed. 14. Carrier pigeon message discovered in Chimney. In a quirky twist of history, A World War II message was discovered hidden in a Surrey chimney. Here's the story. A carrier pigeon's message, dating back to the war, was unearthed from the brickwork of a chimney during some home renovations. The message was inside a small canister that was meant to be carried by a carrier pigeon.
And records were kept of their missions. But this is the story of one pigeon who never made it home.
Unfortunately, this pigeon didn't quite make it to its destination and ended up stuck in the chimney. But it's still incredible to think that this little bird played a role in wartime communications, transporting messages when other means were unreliable or unsafe. The note inside was part of a secret operation or a routine update from the front lines, details still being pieced together. 15. Time Capsule. In December 2014, Boston made headlines when a long-lost time capsule from 1795 was finally unearthed. This wasn't just any time capsule, it was tucked away in the cornerstone of the Massachusetts State House, a key piece of Boston's history. The discovery came during renovations, and it was like finding a secret doorway to the past. There were coins from the 1700s, including a 1795 coin, which is pretty cool because it's like holding a piece of history right in your hand. There were also newspapers from the era, giving us a glimpse into what people were reading and talking about back then. One of the standout finds was a silver plaque engraved with the names of important figures from that time, including Samuel Adams and Paul Revere. 16. Panther tank found in German basement. A man in Germany was discovered to have been secretly keeping a Panther tank in his basement. Yes, you read that right. A full-sized World War II-era tank right under his house. This wasn't just any tank. The Panther was one of the most formidable German tanks of the war, known for its powerful 75mm gun and thick armor. It's a bit like finding a piece of history the size of a small house tucked away in your neighbor's basement. Authorities stumbled upon this unusual find during a routine inspection, and it left everyone scratching their heads. The tank was in surprisingly good condition, suggesting that it had been carefully preserved. 17. Unearthed Island relics on display. In a fascinating discovery from 2016, ancient relics unearthed on Unearthed Island in Sacheon, Gyeongsangnam-do Province, were finally put on display. These artifacts, which had been kept under wraps for over 30 years, date back to the 2nd century BC and offer a peek into the trade networks of the time. Among the finds were tens of thousands of Japanese and Chinese earthen vessels and relics from the Samhan period. What's particularly intriguing is that these items show signs of trade with ancient Japan. To highlight this connection, around 160 artifacts from Kyushu, Japan, Korea's key trading partner back then, were also displayed alongside the Unearthed relics. 18. WY Japanese aircraft carrier, Kaiga, discovered in the Pacific. Deep in the Pacific Ocean, researchers stumbled upon a sunken Japanese aircraft carrier from World War II. The carrier, named the Kaiga, had been lost to history until this discovery. It was part of the Japanese fleet that fought in the early days of the war, and it played a crucial role in the Battle of Midway in 1942. The Kaiga was a big deal back in the day. It was a powerful ship, equipped with a full air group and heavy armament. It boasted 4 turrets on each side, each with dual mounts. This made it a formidable presence on the battlefield. During the Battle of Midway, it was hit by American torpedoes and bombs, which led to its sinking. The ship's final resting place was a mystery for decades, but in 2019, explorers finally located it about 18,000 feet underwater. 19. $235 million silver hoard. Found in Wubu Shipwreck. You won't believe what just surfaced from the depths of the Atlantic Ocean. A staggering $235 million worth of silver has been found in a British cargo shipwreck, the SS Gopa, which sank off the coast of Ireland during World War II. The ship went down in 1941 after being struck by a German U-boat carrying 200 tons of silver from India to Britain. Imagine the excitement when Odyssey Marine, the American salvage company that made this incredible find, realized they'd uncovered a treasure trove of this magnitude.
The US-based exploration company Odyssey Marine won the contract for salvage rights for what's expected to be the biggest haul of precious metal ever found at sea.
They've snagged the rights to 80% of the silver. The ship, resting nearly 5 kilometers underwater, is still remarkably intact, which makes the recovery process both thrilling and challenging. As the team geared up to bring this historic haul to the surface, they also grappled with the ethics of disturbing such a significant piece of history. 20. Ivan the Terrible's Sword, Unearthed. When it comes to uncovering pieces of history, few finds are as thrilling as discovering a long-lost relic from a notorious ruler. In 2021, archaeologists in Russia found a sword believed to belong to Ivan the Terrible, the infamous Tsar. Unearthed in the remote Yaroslavl region, this sword was discovered at a 16th century site linked to Ivan's rule. But here's where it gets truly chilling. Ivan the Terrible is said to have committed one of his most brutal acts in 1581 by unaliving his own son, Ivan Ivanovich. Some suggest he might have used this very sword, though there's no solid proof connecting it to that tragic event. 21. Ancient relics revealed by melting ice in Norway. The melting ice patches in south-central Norway have started to uncover an array of ancient artifacts. As the ice receded last year, archaeologists came across items from various historical periods. Among them is a 1,700-year-old tunic, which turns out to be the oldest garment ever discovered in Norway.
We have found a whole tunic, 1,700 years old. It's the oldest garment in Norway.
Imagine that, an actual piece of history from so long ago. Archaeologists have also come across skis that are over 1,300 years old, and they're in fantastic condition. These are probably the best preserved skis ever found. Alongside these, there are iron horse gear and even a 1,500-year-old reindeer hunting fence. 22. New finds from the Pompei Excavation. The latest dig in Pompeii is uncovering some incredible snapshots of life from nearly 2,000 years ago. One of the highlights is an atrium with a stunning mosaic floor and well-preserved plumbing that looks like it was just installed. It's like stepping back in time to see a Roman home in all its glory. They've also found evidence of a major fire, probably started by a lamp knocked over in the chaos of the eruption. This adds a real human touch to the tragedy of that day.
This bedroom, just off the atrium, was the scene of an intense fire. These charred remains are all that's left.
And get this, a shrine adorned with snake motifs and a massive bakery oven have been unearthed, showing how busy and vibrant the city once was. But it's not all upbeat. Archaeologists have discovered 3 skeletons trapped under the rubble, giving us a heart-wrenching glimpse into the final moments of some Pompeii residents. These finds are helping us piece together the dramatic story of this ancient city, revealing both the everyday and the extraordinary. 23. Ancient artifacts found on slave ship. In a major discovery from 2010, a team, including the Smithsonian, unearthed artifacts from a slave ship that sank off the coast of East Africa. This site was a crucial hub for the slave trade over 400 years. The shipwreck, located near Cape Town, South Africa, revealed chilling finds, such as shackles used to bind slaves. These shackles, along with other artifacts, were buried under sand and marine growth, making their discovery all the more significant. Museum director Lonnie Bunch, who explored the site, has highlighted the deep historical connections these artifacts provide. The collection will be featured at the National Museum of African American History and Culture, shedding light on the harrowing experiences of those who suffered through the transatlantic slave trade. With so many incredible discoveries happening, what other secrets might be waiting just below the surface?